Okay, I want you to do something for me. Just for a second, close your eyes. Picture it. You're walking into a record store, but not, a playlist on a screen.
Right. A real one.
A real one. It's 1959. You're flipping through the cardboard sleeves. You can smell the vinyl, the dust, and then something just visually shouts at you from the bin.
It's an experience before you even hear a single note.
Exactly. The cover art is it's screaming. And the title isn't just words, it's a command. We're talking about Arriba, La Pachanga.
And you can't talk about that title without talking about the punctuation.
Oh, I was about to get obsessive about it because it was the first thing that really hooked me. It's not just an exclamation point at the end.
Really?
It has the inverted one at the beginning, the proper Spanish opener, and then the standard one at the end, just slamming the door. It feels like visual brackets of pure energy. It's noise.
And the punctuation is percussion, really.
Yeah.
It's telling you exactly how you're supposed to read that word. You don't just say arriba.
You shout it.
You have to shout it. But, looking past just the graphic design, that title is doing a ton of work for the consumer, for the person flipping through that bin in 1959.
How so? What's it signaling?
Well, think about where it sits on the shelf. This is a Mongo Santamaría record, right? But the title isn't Mongo's Moods or An Evening with Santamaría.
Right. It's not a quiet jazz title.
Not at all. It's Arriba, La Pachanga. It is explicitly promising you high energy. It's promising a party. And today, our whole deep dive is about tearing apart this specific party, track by track, musician by musician. We're getting into Mongo Santamaria's 1959 studio album, released by Fantasy Records.
It's funny you bring up the party aspect, because when I first saw the title, I thought, okay, cool, a dance record. But then I looked at the personnel list. I looked at the history, and I realized this isn't just a dance record. This is a document. It's a document of a supergroup at this really pivotal moment in time.
Pivotal is absolutely the right word. We're talking about May of 1959.
Which is a heavy, heavy date.
Incredibly so. I mean, musically, people always cite 1959 as maybe the greatest single year in jazz history.
Yeah.
You've got Miles Davis releasing Kind of Blue.
Dave Brubeck's Time Out.
Exactly. Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come. It's this moment of massive innovation. But then you look at the geopolitics.
Oh, yeah?
The Cuban Revolution had just concluded in January of 1959. The entire relationship between the United States and Cuba is changing, literally day by day. And right in the middle of all that tension, you have this album recorded in the U.S. celebrating this hyper-specific, joyful Cuban sound.
It feels like a cultural time capsule almost.
It is. And that's our mission today,
Yeah.
to carefully unpack that capsule. We need to figure out how this record sits right at the intersection of three very different but related things. Pachanga, which was the dance craze.
The pop music of the day.
Right. Then you have Cuban jazz, the musical tradition. And finally, this raw, gritty, urban Afro-Cuban sound that Mongo specifically was perfecting.
And we are absolutely going to play detective with these liner notes because, honestly, when you look at the names on this jacket, it's just ridiculous. This isn't just a band. This is a lineup of future legends before they were all legends.
It's basically a graduate school for Latin jazz, and they're all in the same room.
So let's start with the context. We've got the album in our hands, Arriba, La Pachanga, May 1959. But this wasn't an isolated project, was it? This wasn't the only thing Mongo was working on.
Oh, far from it. If you actually look at the chronology provided in the source material, the work ethic here it's kind of terrifying, actually.
Terrifying how? Like, creatively?
It's the sheer volume of output. Look at the release schedule. In 1958, so the year right before this, he releases Yambu.
Which is a monster of a record in its own right, a classic.
A total classic. Then in May of 1959, he drops this album, Arriba. Okay. And then later in the same year, 1959, he releases another full album, simply titled Mongo.
Wait, so that's 3 full studio albums in what? Maybe 18 months, give or take?
At most. And you have to remember, this isn't today. Recording in 1959 wasn't, fixing everything on a laptop. You had to book expensive studio time, get the whole band in the room at the same time, and play it live to tape. There's no undo button.
So to release 3 high-quality, complex jazz albums in that short a window, it means you are basically living in the studio.
You're living there. It implies a few things. One, the band was hot.
Hot in the sense that they were popular.
Hot in every sense.
Yeah.
Popular, yes.
Yeah.
Fantasy Records, which, by the way, was based in San Francisco, not New York, they clearly knew they had a gold mine on their hands. You don't burn that much studio budget on an artist, unless the records are just flying off the shelves.
Right.
But it also tells us something crucial about the band's chemistry.
That they were just incredibly tight.
Beyond tight.
Yeah.
You can't just churn out that much complex rhythmic music if you're only rehearsing once a week. These guys were almost certainly playing gigs every single night, probably finishing a set at 2 in the morning, and then dragging themselves into the studio the next day to record. They were a well-oiled machine.
I want to pause on that Fantasy Records connection you just made. San Francisco, because that's important, isn't it? When we think about this era of Latin jazz, the conversation is always dominated by New York City. The Palladium Ballroom, the Bronx.
Always.
But this is a West Coast record. Does that change the sound?
It's a crucial distinction, yeah. The West Coast Latin jazz scene, especially the one centered around the Bay Area, had a slightly different flavor. It was often mixed in with the cool jazz scene, the beatnik culture was happening right there.
So a little more intellectual, maybe.
A little more intellectual, but still deeply visceral. And Mongo was right at the heart of that scene. It wasn't quite the same pressure cooker as New York, which maybe allowed for a different kind of experimentation.
And releasing Arriba, which means up or hooray, in May. That feels like a very deliberate, calculated move.
Do you think it's about the timing?
I do. May is the gateway to summer. You release a record with a giant exclamation point and the word Pachanga right when the weather starts to break. That feels like marketing 101 for 1959. You want this record spinning at every barbecue and block party from June to August.
That's a great point. It's a seasonal, aggressive push. And it aligns perfectly with what our source material calls the genre soup.
Let's get into that soup, because the source lists 4 distinct genres: Pachanga, Cuban jazz, Latin jazz, and Afro-Cuban jazz. Now, to the average listener, those might all sound, pretty much like the same thing, but they are not, are they?
No, not at all. They are very distinct ingredients in this recipe. Let's start with the one in the title, Pachanga.
The headline genre.
Exactly. Pachanga wasn't just a vibe. It was a specific named dance craze. It was huge at the time. It's fast. It's highly syncopated. You can feel almost frantic. It was the pop music of the Latin sector. So by slapping that word right on the cover, they are telling the buyer, this is modern. This is what you dance to. This is the hot new thing.
So it's like putting disco or EDM on a record cover in a later era. It's a market signal.
In a way, yes. But then you have a tag like Afro-Cuban jazz. Now, that tag is doing some very heavy lifting, too.
Okay, unpack that one.
When you see Afro attached to Cuban jazz, especially on a Mongo Santamaría record, it's a direct signal about the drums.
Because Mongo is a drummer.
He's not just a drummer, he's a rumbero. He comes from the streets of Havana, from the soul or the courtyards. Afro-Cuban implies that the music deeply respects the religious and folkloric roots of the rhythm. We're talking about beta drumming, about rumba, about the Abacua secret societies. It's telling the serious listener, sure, you can dance to this on the surface, but the engine driving this party is ancient and powerful.
So it's popular packaging with this incredibly deep traditional core.
Precisely. It's designed to satisfy the casual dancer who just bought it for the title and the serious jazz head who bought it for the name Mongo Santamaría. It works on both levels.
Okay, so we've established the when, this incredibly fertile moment in 1959, and the what, this genre soup. Now, I want to get into the who, because as I said, when I looked at the personnel list you sent over, my jaw it hit the floor. This is not just a backing band.
No, this is a lineup that today you probably couldn't afford to get in the same room.
Let's start with the engine room, the rhythm section. Because on any Afro-Cuban record, if the drums aren't right, nothing else matters. The whole building collapses.
That's absolutely correct. And here, the drums are everything. You have Mongo Santamaría as the leader.
Which is already rare, isn't it? I mean, usually the guy with his name on the cover is playing the trumpet or the saxophone or the piano.
It was very rare in 1959. Having a conguero, a conga player as the marquee artist was a powerful statement. It immediately shifts the center of gravity of the music. The melody is important, sure, but the rhythm is the absolute dictator here.
Okay, so Mongo's on congas and bongos, but look who's sitting right next to him.
Willie Bobo.
Willie Bobo, just saying the name. It has a rhythm.
Willie Bobo is a titan of this music. At this point in 59, he's still young, he's incredibly hungry, and he's listed as playing timbales and bongos. Now, for any listener who might not know, Willie Bobo was born William Correa. He grew up in Spanish Harlem, and he was, for all intents and purposes, Mongo's protege.
So you have the master, Mongo, and his top student, Willie, in the same percussion section.
And they were said to be telepathic. When you listen to their recordings together, they don't step on each other's toes, they weave. They interlock their patterns, but wait, it gets even crazier.
There's more.
There's Cuco Martinez.
Also on timbales and percussion.
Okay, so let's do the math here. You've got Mongo listed on congas and bongos. You have Willie Bobo listed on timbales and bongos. And you have Cuco Martinez listed on timbales and percussion.
So you have 2 people who can play bongos and 2 people who can play timbales. That is a ridiculous amount of high-frequency percussion.
It's what we call a wall of drums. But think specifically about the timbales for a second. Those are the high-pitched, metal-shelled drums that sound like gunshots when you hit the rim, the cascara.
Right.
To have 2 timbaleros in the same band, that is an incredibly aggressive sound. It creates this constant, shimmering, metallic wash of rhythm that just cuts through absolutely everything.
It must have been deafening in the studio.
I imagine it was. It was controlled chaos. And then, the man with the hardest job in the world holding all of this down, Victor Venegas on bass.
Oh, man. God bless the bass player in a band like this.
You have to feel for him. His job is to be the anchor, while 3 of the greatest percussionists on the planet are basically setting off fireworks around his head. If he rushes a beat, the whole thing falls apart. If he drags, the energy dies instantly. Victor Venegas is the unsung hero of this entire record.
So that's the rhythm, that's the earth. But then, this is where I got confused. I looked at the melodic instruments, the people playing the actual notes of the song, and I was expecting a big brass section.
Like a mambo orchestra?
Exactly. Trumpets, trombones, that huge roaring Mambo King sound that was so popular.
And instead, what did you find?
Instead, we get Rolando Lozano on flute and Felix Pupi Legarreta on violin.
Just flute and violin leading the charge.
That seems, I don't know, quiet, delicate. How can a flute and a violin compete with that wall of drums we just talked about?
It seems completely counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But this is where the genius of the arrangement lies. This specific instrumentation, flute, violin, and a heavy rhythm section is the absolute blueprint of a style called charanga.
Charanga. Okay, walk me through that style.
So charanga has these elegant roots going back to the turn of the century in Cuba. It was influenced by French danzón orchestras that played for the upper class. It was originally considered parlor music. Very polite, lots of violins, flutes.
So like high society tea party music.
Originally, yes. But what Mongo and his band are doing here is revolutionary. They take that sweet or polite instrumentation, the airy, soaring flute and the crying lyrical violin, and they bolt it onto the chassis of that aggressive, street-level Afro-Cuban drumming we just described.
It's a complete mashup of high and low culture.
It's a sonic trick. See, a trumpet or a trombone, they operate in the mid-range frequencies. They take up a lot of sonic space.
Right.
If you had a loud trumpet section, it would be fighting for attention with the complex overtones of the congas and the timbales. It would get muddy.
Okay.
But a flute sits way, way up high in the frequency spectrum. It floats above everything.
So the flute can just soar over the top of the drum battle without getting lost in the mix?
Precisely. And the violin can play these incredibly fast, intricate, almost percussive runs, pizzicato plucking, or these searing bowed lines that actually mimic the rhythm. It creates a sound that is lighter, breezier, but still unbelievably fast and intense. It's aerodynamic jazz.
I love that phrase, aerodynamic jazz.
It's the difference between a big, heavy tank and a speedboat. This band is a speedboat.
And sort of bridging the gap, we have Jose Chombo Silva on saxophone.
Chombo is the crucial bridge. He adds that smoky jazz texture. He's the one guy who can sound like he's in a classic bebop club in New York, but he knows how to lock into the Cuban clave rhythm perfectly. He connects the two worlds.
And on piano, Juan Donato.
Donato is a fascinating choice because he's actually Brazilian, not Cuban. He brings a slightly different harmonic sensibility, a touch of bossa nova maybe, but in this context, his main job is to play the montuno.
The montuno, I see that word a lot in liner notes for this kind of music. Describe that for me. What is the piano doing?
So in a lot of straight-ahead jazz, the pianist is playing chords, they're comping, they're reacting to the soloist. In this music, the piano is essentially a tuned drum. The montuno is that repetitive, hypnotic, rhythmic, melodic vamp. You know the sound. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right, it just loops.
It loops. It doesn't change much. Its job is to lock the bass and the percussion together. It's the spine of the track. It's the part of the song that puts you in a trance.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, rounding out this killer lineup, we have one vocal credit, Rudy Calzado.
Listed simply as voice.
Which is funny because you have this army of 8 instrumentalists and then just voice. He feels like the odd man out.
But he's absolutely essential. In this style of music, the voice isn't always singing a traditional verse-chorus pop song. The vocalist is often the inspirador. He's improvising chants, he's doing call and response with the rest of the band, who act as a chorus. He's the hype man and the storyteller all rolled into one. He's urging the band on.
So he's another rhythmic instrument, in a way.
100%.
Okay, so we have this incredible cast of characters, and I want to go back to their names for a second. Because the credits don't just say Felix Legarreta. They say Felix Pupi Legarreta and Jose Chumbo Silva.
The nicknames are so important.
They feel incredibly intimate. I mean, Pupi sounds like a name your grandma calls you when you're a little kid.
And it signals to the listener that this is a family. In the Latin jazz world, especially in this era, these nicknames were badges of honor. Chumbo, Pupi, Mongo itself is a nickname. His real name was Ramon. It tells you that this isn't some stiff, formal orchestra where everyone just shakes hands and goes home at the end of the night.
Right.
These guys lived together. They traveled on the same bus. They ate together. They argued together. It was brotherhood.
And what's amazing is that brotherhood actually shows up in the songwriting credits. This was my favorite part of digging into the source material for this deep dive.
Mine too. The track list is basically a map of their friendship.
It is. Okay, lay it out for us.
So look at track A4 on the first side of the record. The song is titled Chumbo Chavada.
Okay. And who's the saxophone player in the band?
Jose Chumbo Silva.
And who wrote the song?
Mongo Santamaría.
So just stop and think about that for a second. The leader of the band, the guy whose name is on the cover, sits down and writes a whole composition specifically dedicated to his saxophone player. He literally names it after him.
It's a musical shout-out.
It's so much more than that, though. It implies that he wrote the melody to fit Chumbo's specific style of playing. He knows Chumbo's tone, he knows his favorite phrases, his improvisational tics, so he builds a musical playground just for him to play in. That's a level of generosity and respect you don't always see from band leaders.
It's not just, here's the song, play my notes. It's, here, I made this for you.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. It happens again on side B.
Oh, side B is absolutely the Pupi show.
It really is.
Look at track B1, Antonio y Pedro, written by Felix Legarreta. Then you go down to track B4, Loco Porti, who wrote that one. Felix Legarreta.
So Pupi, the violin player, isn't just some session musician hired for the date. He's a key composer. He is contributing a third of the music for the entire second side of the album.
It completely changes how you listen to it. Knowing that the guy playing that searing violin solo actually wrote the tune, you can just hear the ownership in the performance.
There's a different level of pride there.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to go even deeper into this track list now because there are some real mysteries here that the source material hints at but doesn't fully solve.
I love a good liner note mystery.
Let's look at side A again. We established Mongo wrote 4 of the 6 tracks, Quindimbia, Sabroso, Chumbo Chavada, A Ti No Mas. He is clearly the creative director of this session.
He's setting the tone. And a title like Sabroso is a perfect descriptor for the whole album. It means tasty or flavorful. It's basically him saying, this track has sauce.
But then we get to track A6, a beautiful tune called Mi Novia.
Which means my girlfriend.
Right, and it's written by Alicia Correa.
Now that's a name that jumps right out at you.
It does, because I scoured the musician list. There is no Alicia Correa playing an instrument on this record. There is no Alicia Correa in the production credits. She's a ghost. Who is she?
This is where we have to put on our detective hats and do a bit of speculation based on jazz history. Let's go back to Willie Bobo.
The timbales player, Mongo's protege.
What was his real given name?
William Correa.
William Correa.
Oh, wait a second. So, Alicia Correa
is almost certainly related to Willie Bobo. Is it his wife? His sister? In the 1950s, publishing rights were a really messy business. Sometimes musicians were under an exclusive contract to one publisher and couldn't legally write songs for another record label.
So what did they do?
A common trick was to put the song in their wife's name or their mother's name.
The old ghostwriter wife trick?
It's a classic move in the music business. Or, maybe it's something more romantic. Maybe Willie wrote a song called My Girlfriend, and he literally gave the songwriting credit, and more importantly, the royalty checks, to his actual girlfriend, Alicia.
That is either incredibly savvy or incredibly sweet. Or both.
It connects the dots, though. It makes the song Mi Novia feel like this very personal artifact from the drummer to his partner, hidden in plain sight on his mentor's album.
I love that theory. It just makes the whole record feel so much more human.
It does.
Okay, let's flip the record over to side B. We've talked about Pupi's compositions, but I want to stop and hover over track B2 for a minute. Guajira at the Black Hawk.
This title is doing a lot of geographic work.
The Black Hawk. I mean, that sounds like a place where you'd either get stabbed or you'd buy a really good drink. Maybe both.
You are not far off on either count. The Black Hawk was a legendary, and I mean legendary, jazz club in San Francisco. It was on the corner of Turk and Hyde Streets in the Tenderloin district.
The Tenderloin. Okay, so a gritty neighborhood.
Very gritty. But it was the spot. Miles Davis recorded a famous live album there. Thelonious Monk played there. Jerry Mulligan. Everybody.
Hey.
It was this long, narrow, smoke-filled room with a weird wire mesh fence separating the underage section from the bar.
And Mongo titles a track Guajira at the Black Hawk.
Which is a beautiful paradox.
Why is it a paradox?
Because a guajira is Cuban country music. It's the music of the guajiros, the farmers and peasants out in the Cuban countryside. It's traditionally very acoustic, very laid back, very rural.
So he's taking this rural farm music and he's planting it right in the middle of a grimy, urban American jazz club.
Exactly. He's taking the countryside to the Tenderloin. The title itself encapsulates the entire experience of the immigrant musician, doesn't it? You bring your roots, your home music, and you perform it in this high-pressure foreign environment of the American city.
Do you think this was a song they actually played live at the Black Hawk?
Oh, almost certainly. This was probably a staple of their live set. Naming it this way is likely a nod to the venue that was paying their rent that month.
What a great story. Then right after that, we get Come Candela.
Which translates to Eat Fire.
Eat Fire. I mean, come on. That has to be one of the most metal titles for a jazz song I've ever heard in my life.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the band saying to the listener, can you handle this heat? Can you keep up?
But then, just as you're catching your breath, the mood shifts dramatically. Track B3, Paulo Mayombe.
Written by Rudy Calzado, the vocalist.
This one feels different. The title sounds heavy.
It is extremely heavy. Paulo Mayombe isn't a dance style. It's a religion. It's a syncretic religion practiced in Cuba with roots that trace back to the Congo Basin in Africa. It's often considered the darker, more intense, more mysterious cousin of Santamaría. It deals with spirits of the dead, with the power of nature, with wooden sticks or palos.
So in the middle of this high-energy Pachanga party album, they just drop a track that directly references a very serious, very deep Afro-Cuban spiritual practice.
It's a reminder. It's the band reminding the listener that this music at its core isn't just entertainment. The rhythms they are playing on the congas and the bata drums, they aren't just beats, they're prayers, they're invocations. Even when it's packaged as a pop dance record, the spiritual DNA of the music is still right there under the surface.
It grounds the whole project. It gives it a kind of gravitas you wouldn't expect.
It does. And then, just as things get really heavy and spiritual, they pull you right back out.
Track B6, The Closer, Olga Pachanga.
Written by Nicholas Martinez.
Who I am guessing is probably related to Cuco Martinez, the timbales player.
That would be a very safe bet. Another family connection woven into the record.
And the title, Olga Pachanga. We end exactly where we started.
With the Pachanga. It bookends the entire album perfectly. You open with the visual and sonic scream of Arriba, and you leave with the name of the dance on your lips. It's a perfect, satisfying exit.
It's such a tight, brilliant package. 12 tracks, absolutely no filler. Just straight uncut energy.
It's a real statement of intent.
So we've dissected the music, we've gone through the band, the history, but I have to ask the big so what question. Did it matter? Did anyone actually care about this record in 1959, or did it just kind of disappear into the bargain bin over time?
No, it definitely mattered. And we know this because of the legacy data that the source material points to.
The ratings.
The ratings, right. The source specifically points to ratings from the Penguin Guide to Jazz Recordings and from the website AllMusic.
Now, I've heard of the Penguin Guide. That's that massive book. It looks like a phone book or a dictionary, right?
It is the Bible of modern jazz criticism. For decades, it was the essential reference book. And the fact that Arriba, La Pachanga is listed and rated in the 9th edition, which was published in 2008, that's hugely significant.
That's almost 50 years after the record was released.
Exactly. Most pop records, most dance fads are completely forgotten in 5 years, let alone 50. If you are still being cataloged and critically assessed to the Penguin Guide half a century later, you are considered canon. You've transcended being just a pop record, and you are now considered essential art.
It validates the quality. It's the critical world saying, no, this wasn't just some kitschy dance music. This is serious, important music.
And the AllMusic rating, which was checked as recently as 2017, shows that even in the digital streaming age, people are still discovering this album, they're still listening to it, and they're still rating it. It has incredible longevity.
There was one little detail in the source material about its digital footprint that made me laugh, though.
The visual description part.
Yeah. The metadata tag that says, album articles lacking alt text for covers.
The irony of the modern age, right?
It's hilarious. We have all this incredibly detailed information about the personnel, the release date, the genres, the songwriters, but the computer doesn't know what the cover looks like.
It's a digital blind spot.
But, based on the music we've been talking about, I think we can generate our own alt text for it.
I like it. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see when you hear this music?
I see red. Just bright fire engine red. I see bold yellow block letters, and I see motion blur. Maybe it's a dancer skirt spinning so fast it's just a streak of color, or maybe it's hands hitting a conga drum so hard they look like ghosts. Pure energy.
I think you're spot on. The
Yeah.
music is recorded in Technicolor, so the cover has to match that energy.
So to bring this all home, we've spent this whole deep dive breaking down Arriba, La Pachanga. We've looked at the history, the wall of drums, that unique flute and violin combination. What's the big single takeaway for you? What's the lesson of this album?
For me, the biggest takeaway is about the blurred line between a solo artist and a true collective.
How do you mean?
Well, the cover of the album says Mongo Santamaría. He's the star. He's the brand. But when you actually dig into the liner notes, when you see Pupi writing these beautiful love songs and Rudy writing the deep spiritual chants and Willie Bobo or his family contributing their own tracks, you realize this wasn't a dictatorship.
It was a village.
It was a village. Mongo was a chief, no doubt about it. But he was a wise chief who allowed his people to shine. He created a platform where a brilliant violinist could also be a respected composer, where a young kid from Spanish Harlem like Willie Bobo could become a percussion god right alongside his mentor.
It's a lesson in leadership, really.
It is. Great music, truly great music, doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when you gather the best possible people, you give them a cool nickname, and you trust them enough to let them write what they feel.
And you let them play loud.
Exceptionally loud.
So my final thought for everyone listening is this. The next time you pick up a jazz record, especially from this era, don't just look at the front cover. Flip it over. Read the names in the tiny print. See who actually wrote the songs. Because you might find a Pupi or a Chumbo or a secret Alicia hiding in there, waiting to tell you the real story behind the music.
And that's our provocative thought for you to chew on. The artist is listed as Mongo Santamaría and his band.
Oh.
But after looking at these writing credits, where the violinist and the flutist and the vocalist are all writing their own features, where do you draw the line between a solo artist and a collective? Is this a Mongo album, or is it a document of a community?
A question to think about next time you listen. And if you ever see an inverted exclamation point on a record cover, just buy it.
Always buy the inverted exclamation point. That's the rule.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Keep digging deep.